My daughter chose her boyfriend's parents over her own father. They need this room more than you, Dad. Stop being difficult. At 70, I found myself a stranger in my own home, pushed aside for people who laughed at my generosity behind closed doors. I stayed quiet, thinking family loyalty meant sacrifice. But when I discovered what her boyfriend was really hiding, everything changed. One phone call, one devastating revelation. By week's end, their perfect world had crumbled and the tables had completely turned. Comment below what country you're from because I need to know. Is disrespecting your parents this common worldwide, or was my situation unique? My name is Chase Whitaker, and I'm 70 years old. 5 years ago, I thought I had my life figured out. Helen and I had been married for 45 years in our 3-bedroom house in Lakewood, Ohio, where we'd built what I believed was an unshakable foundation of love and respect. Then on a Tuesday morning in October, Helen had a massive heart attack while making breakfast. She spent her final 3 days in our master bedroom, the same room where we'd shared countless mornings and made every major decision of our lives. Chase, she whispered on that last evening, promise me you'll always put family first, but never let anyone take away your dignity. She passed away peacefully in my arms at dawn in the bed we'd shared for nearly half a century. After the funeral, friends kept telling me to sell and downsize. Chase, you're rattling around in there like a marble in a coffee can, my neighbor Bob would say, but they didn't understand. This wasn't just a house to me. I'd bought it in 1978 with my first promotion check from the steel plant, right after finishing my Army stint. Helen had fallen in love with the wraparound porch and kitchen windows that caught the morning sun. My 20 years of military service had taught me the value of discipline, loyalty, and respect. I'd seen good men destroyed by betrayal, watched strong leaders crumble when their authority was undermined. Those lessons had served me well in civilian life, in marriage, and in raising Amelia. Every morning I'd wake at 6 sharp, make coffee in Helen's favorite mug, and read The Plain Dealer in perfect quiet. The master bedroom had become my sanctuary, filled with 45 years of memories and Helen's jewelry box still on her dresser, her reading glasses in the nightstand drawer. I thought I had found peace in my solitude. I had no idea that the greatest test of everything Helen had taught me about family and dignity was just around the corner. 3 years later, that test arrived on my doorstep in the form of my daughter Amelia, standing in the rain with 2 suitcases and red-rimmed eyes. Behind her, my grandchildren, Jacob and Madison, huddled together, looking lost and scared in a way that broke my heart. Dad, I didn't know where else to go, Amelia said, her voice cracking. Tom and it's over. The divorce was finalized yesterday and he got the house. The lawyer says it could take months before I see any settlement money, and I can't afford first month's rent anywhere decent. She looked down at 15-year-old Jacob and 13-year-old Madison, both still in their school clothes, both trying not to cry. I know this is a lot to ask, but could we maybe stay here for a few months? Just until I get back on my feet. I didn't even hesitate. Of course you can stay. This is your home, Amelia. It always has been. I pulled them all inside, took their wet coats, and started making hot chocolate the way Helen used to when Amelia was small. We'll figure everything out. Don't you worry about that. The transformation happened almost immediately. Jacob, who'd been sullen and angry about the divorce, started opening up during our morning walks around the neighborhood. He'd always been interested in my Army stories, and now he had time to hear them properly. Madison. My little artist claimed Helen's old sewing room as her art studio, covering the walls with drawings that slowly changed from dark, angry scribbles to brighter, more hopeful scenes. Grandpa, why didn't Mom and Dad try harder? Madison asked one evening while we worked on a jigsaw puzzle together. It was the kind of question that required careful handling, the kind Helen would have known exactly how to answer. Sometimes adults make mistakes, sweetheart, I told her. But that doesn't mean they don't love you. Your mom is doing her best to take care of you, and that's what matters now. Jacob started joining me for my morning coffee ritual, asking questions about everything from baseball stats to how to talk to girls. These kids needed stability, needed to know that at least one adult in their world wasn't going to let them down. I was happy to be that person. Of course, my quiet routines changed completely. The house filled with teenage music friends coming over school projects spread across the dining room table. I gave up my evening news time to help with homework, traded my weekend golf games for soccer practices and art class pickups. My master bedroom remained my sanctuary, but the rest of the house belonged to family again. Amelia threw herself into job hunting with determination that reminded me of her mother. She'd always been strong, my daughter, but the divorce had shaken her confidence. Watching her rebuild herself while putting her children first made me proud of the woman Helen and I had raised. What started as a few months stretched into a year, then longer. Amelia found steady work at an insurance office, the kids settled into new schools, and somehow we all found our rhythm. Nobody talked about Amelia getting her own place anymore. The house felt alive again, filled with the sounds of family, and I realized I'd been lonelier than I'd admitted to myself. This was good. This felt right. Helen would have approved. 18 months into our new family routine, I noticed something different about Amelia. She'd started humming while making breakfast, spending extra time getting ready for work, checking her phone with a smile I hadn't seen since before her marriage fell apart. "Dad, there's someone I'd like you to meet," she announced one Friday evening, practically glowing. "His name is Travis Wilson, and he's wonderful. We've been seeing each other for a few months now, and I think it's getting serious." After watching her struggle through the darkness of divorce, seeing her light up again felt like a gift. "I'd love to meet him, sweetheart. Why don't you invite him for Sunday dinner?" Travis Wilson turned out to be everything a father could hope for in his daughter's boyfriend. 42 years old, divorced with an easy smile and firm handshake. He worked in construction management, owned his own company, and had a 10-year-old son named Bruno from his previous marriage. "Mr. Whitaker, Amelia talks about you constantly," Travis said that first Sunday, helping me flip burgers, while Amelia and the kids set the table. "She says you're the strongest man she knows, and I can see why. Taking care of your family like this takes real character." I liked him immediately. Travis had served 4 years in the Marines, so we had military service in common. He treated Amelia with genuine respect, was patient with Jacob's teenage attitude, and took real interest in Madison's artwork. Most importantly, he made my daughter happy in a way I hadn't seen in years. Over the following months, Travis became a regular fixture at family dinners, helped Jacob with science projects, and even learned woodworking techniques in my garage. When he started staying over on weekends, it felt natural rather than intrusive. "And this one's a keeper," I told Amelia one evening as we watched Travis patiently help Madison with math homework. "He reminds me of myself at that age. Hard-working, family-oriented, respectful." "I think so too, Dad," she said, leaning against my shoulder. "I never thought I'd trust anyone again after Tom, but Travis is different. He puts family first just like you taught me." It was during one of our Saturday morning coffee talks that Travis first mentioned his parents, Mr. Whitaker. "I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but my folks are going through a really tough patch," he said, looking genuinely troubled. Dad had health issues that forced early retirement, and they had to sell their house to pay medical bills. They're in a small apartment temporarily, but it's not working out. Travis's concern reminded me of my own relationship with family. Health problems can wipe out a lifetime of savings pretty quickly. "Their current place is falling apart, and the landlord won't fix anything," Travis continued. "Mom's developing respiratory problems from mold, and Dad's arthritis is getting worse in that damp environment. They need somewhere else while they figure out their next step." I could see where this was heading, and honestly, it didn't bother me. We had that small guest room sitting empty. "Travis, if your parents need a place to stay temporarily while they get back on their feet, we've got that guest room available." His face lit up with relief and gratitude. "Mr. Whitaker, that would be incredible. They're good people, I promise. They won't be any trouble, and it would just be until they find something more permanent." "Us, family helps family," I said, thinking of Helen's words about putting loved ones first. "Tell them they're welcome here." 2 days later, a blue sedan pulled into my driveway, and George and Barbara Wilson stepped out with their suitcases and warm smiles, ready to join what I thought was going to be one big happy family. The first week with George and Barbara Wilson went exactly as I'd hoped. They were gracious and appreciative, keeping to themselves, mostly spending quiet evenings in their room, reading or watching a small television Travis had brought over. "Chase, we can't thank you enough," Barbara said that first morning, insisting on making breakfast. "You're an angel for taking us in like this." George helped clear dishes and offered to mow the lawn. I started thinking this arrangement might work beautifully. By the second week, small complaints crept into our conversations. "The mattress in that guest room is awfully soft," Barbara mentioned during dinner. "George's back isn't what it used to be, and he's been tossing and turning all night. Maybe we could get a firmer mattress," I suggested. "Oh, we couldn't ask you to spend money on us," George replied quickly. "We'll manage somehow." The third week brought more specific grievances. It gets so stuffy in that back room, Barbara would sigh dramatically. The window doesn't catch any breeze, and poor George wakes up drenched in sweat. George had taken it upon himself to adjust my thermostat throughout the day. Hope you don't mind, Chase, but Barbara gets chilly so easily since her circulation problem started. My sacred morning routine suddenly became household tension. Chase, would it be possible for you to shower a bit later? Barbara asked sweetly. The pipes make such noise and it wakes George right up. My evening news faced similar scrutiny. The television volume carries right through these walls, George observed. Maybe you could use headphones, Barbara has such sensitive hearing. I found myself tiptoeing around my own house, adjusting my schedule to accommodate guests who seemed increasingly comfortable making demands. This room really is quite small for two people, Barbara confided to Amelia one afternoon, making sure I could overhear. We're practically living on top of each other. George can barely open his suitcase fully. Amelia, ever the peacemaker, looked troubled. Maybe we could rearrange some furniture? Oh, sweetheart, you're so thoughtful, Barbara replied. But honestly, the room is just too cramped for people our age. We need space to move around safely in case of medical emergencies. The guilt tactics became more sophisticated. During family dinners, George would wince dramatically when standing. This old back of mine, he'd groan. That soft mattress just doesn't provide the support I need. Barbara would nod sympathetically. The doctor always said George needed a firm sleeping surface and more room for his physical therapy exercises. I watched my daughter's growing concern for these elderly guests, who were only 5 years older than me. Jacob and Madison started looking at me with questioning eyes. Grandpa, Madison asked one evening, why can't Mr. George sleep better? Is it because the room is too little? That's when Barbara delivered what I now realize was a carefully planned suggestion. You know, Amelia, she said thoughtfully, your father's room is so much larger with that lovely private bathroom and better ventilation. I hate to even think it, but wouldn't it make sense for someone with George's health issues to have access to more suitable accommodations? The seed was planted. I could see it taking root in Amelia's mind as she glanced between her father and the people she was trying so hard to help. Over the following days, I watched my daughter wrestle with a decision that was tearing her apart. Amelia had always tried to make everyone happy, and now she found herself caught between her father and two people she genuinely believed needed help. Dad, I know this is awkward, she said one evening after the kids had gone to bed. But George really is struggling. Barbara showed me his prescription bottles, serious pain medication for his back. And honestly, you're so much healthier than they are. You could adapt to any room in the house. There it was, the assumption that because I was her father, I should be the one to sacrifice. Because I was family, my comfort mattered less than that of virtual strangers. But something else was bothering me even more than the Wilsons' demands. I'd started noticing things about Travis that didn't add up. The way he'd step outside to take certain phone calls speaking in hushed, urgent tones. How he'd quickly close his laptop when someone walked into the room. Mail addressed to him at my house, which he'd snatch up before anyone else could see it. One afternoon I caught him shoving what looked like legal documents into his jacket pocket. When I asked what they were, he brushed it off. Just boring work stuff, Mr. Whitaker. Contract disputes. But legitimate business documents don't usually require that level of secrecy. My military training had taught me to pay attention to inconsistencies, and Travis was full of them. There were phone calls that always came at dinner time which he'd answer with a tense, "I can't talk right now," before hanging up quickly. Weekends when he'd disappear for hours claiming work emergencies that construction companies rarely had on Saturdays. Most troubling was how he'd change the subject whenever anyone asked about his ex-wife or custody arrangements with Bruno. For a man who seemed so family-oriented, he was remarkably vague about his own child's living situation. The final straw came when I noticed he'd been using my address on official forms without asking permission. That crossed a line no houseguest should cross. That's when I decided to call Frank Morrison. Frank and I had served together in Germany back in the 70s. After the Army, he'd become a private investigator in Cleveland, specializing in background checks and domestic cases. "Chase, good to hear from you," Frank said when I reached him. "What's going on?" "Frank, I need a favor. I've got a situation with my daughter's boyfriend, and something doesn't feel right. My gut's telling me there's more to this guy than meets the eye." "Your gut never steered us wrong in the service," Frank replied. "What kind of inconsistencies?" I laid out everything. The secretive phone calls, hidden documents, vague answers about family unauthorized use of my address. Sounds like classic behavior of someone hiding something significant, Frank said. Give me his full name and any details you can think of. I'll run a complete background check. Employment history, financial records, court documents, the works. How long will this take? Give me a week, maybe less. If Travis Wilson has secrets, I'll find them. After I hung up, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Finally, I was taking action, instead of just enduring whatever was happening to my household. While Amelia wrestled with her decision about the bedroom, I'd be getting answers about the man who'd brought this whole situation into our lives. Frank's call came exactly 1 week later, just as I was finishing my morning coffee. The tone in his voice told me everything before he started talking. Chase, you need to sit down for this, Frank said. Your instincts were right about Travis Wilson, but it's worse than we imagined. My grip tightened on the phone. How much worse? Travis Wilson is still married, legally married, to Jennifer Wilson, and they have 2 children, Tommy 8 and Sarah 6. They're living in Detroit, struggling badly. The room seemed to spin. Still married, never filed for divorce, not even separation papers. According to court records, Jennifer's been trying to get child support for over 2 years. He owes $45,000 in back payments. The court has issued multiple warrants for his arrest. I felt sick thinking about Amelia, about how she'd trusted this man with her heart and her children's future. Jennifer Wilson has been working 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. Frank continued. The kids are in underfunded schools living in a rough neighborhood. She's been telling them Daddy is working far away to explain why he never visits or sends money. And Travis has been here playing house with my daughter. It gets worse, Chase. I found email exchanges between Travis and his parents. George and Barbara know everything. They've been helping him hide from his financial obligations. There are messages discussing using Amelia as cover staying at your house to avoid having a paper trail Jennifer's lawyers could follow. The betrayal cut deeper than expected. They planned this, George wrote. As long as we're staying with the girlfriend's father, we don't have an official address that can be traced. Barbara responded, The old man seems like a pushover. We should be able to stay as long as we need to. A pushover. That's what they thought of me. There are dozens of these emails, Chase. They've been laughing about manipulating your family. Barbara even wrote about playing up the health issues to get sympathy from Amelia. The legal documents I saw Travis hiding. Court summons. Contempt hearings he's been skipping. Also a private investigator's report. Jennifer hired someone to find him, traced him to your address 3 weeks ago. I closed my eyes, thinking about Jennifer Wilson and her children struggling while their father lived comfortably in my house, eating my food, playing stepfather to my grandchildren while abandoning his own kids. Frank, I need Jennifer Wilson's contact information. Chase, what are you planning? I'm planning to make sure justice gets served. These people have been using my daughter to help a man avoid his responsibilities to his own children. That ends now. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen staring at the master bedroom door down the hallway. They wanted my room. They wanted to push me around in my own house. They had no idea what they'd just unleashed. Monday morning arrived with the kind of crisp October air that usually lifted my spirits. I was sitting at the kitchen table with my coffee and newspaper when Amelia walked in, her face set, with a determined expression I recognized from her childhood. The look she got when she'd made up her mind about something difficult. Dad, we need to talk, she said, pouring herself coffee with hands that trembled slightly. I've been thinking all weekend about George and Barbara's situation, and I think we need to make a decision. I folded my newspaper and gave her my full attention. What kind of decision, sweetheart? About the bedroom arrangement? She said, not quite meeting my eyes. George had another terrible night. Barbara says he was up until 4 in the morning, pacing because his back was spasming. Dad, they're elderly people with serious health issues, and that guest room just isn't working for them. I waited, knowing what was coming next. I think you should move to the guest room and let George and Barbara have the master bedroom, she said in a rush. I know it's a lot to ask, but you're so much more adaptable than they are. You're healthier, you're younger, and honestly, it's just a room. The memories of Mom aren't tied to a physical space. They're in your heart. Just a room. My wife's deathbed reduced to just a room. It would only be temporary. Amelia continued using that magic word again. Just until George's physical therapy starts working, or until they find a more permanent solution. I looked at my daughter. Really looked at her. She genuinely believed she was asking me to do the right thing. She had no idea she was being manipulated by experts. No idea that her boyfriend was a fraud. No idea that his parents had been laughing about what a pushover her father was. "You know what, Amelia?" I said, calmly setting down my coffee cup. "You're absolutely right." Her face lit up with relief and surprise. "Really? You'll do it?" "I'll move my things today," I said. "In fact, I'll take care of everything. You don't need to worry about any of the details." "Oh, Dad, thank you so much," she said, tears in her eyes. "I know this isn't easy, but George and Barbara will be so grateful, and it really will just be temporary." After Amelia left for work, I sat in my kitchen for a few minutes, thinking about Helen's words about putting family first, but never letting anyone take away my dignity. Then I picked up my phone and started making calls. The first call was to Morrison Real Estate, the biggest agency in Lakewood. "I need to sell my house immediately," I told the agent. "I want it listed today, priced to move fast." "How fast are we talking, Mr. Whitaker?" "I want it sold by the end of the week." The second call was to Frank. "I need you to contact Jennifer Wilson today. Tell her to be ready to come to Cleveland. It's time she met the family that's been helping her husband hide from his responsibilities." The third call was to my bank. "I need to arrange a wire transfer of $50,000. I'll have the details by tomorrow." By 2 in the afternoon, the realtor had photographed the house and posted the listing. By 4, we'd had 3 showings and 2 serious offers. I was in the garage, calmly packing tools into boxes when I heard Amelia's car in the driveway. Then I heard her scream, Dad, what is this realtor sign doing in our yard?" I walked out to find my entire family standing in the driveway, staring at the for sale sign like it was a bomb that had just appeared on our lawn. "Oh, that," I said pleasantly. I decided to sell the house. Since I'm moving to the guest room anyway, I figured I might as well move somewhere else entirely. The silence that followed was deafening. "Dad, have you lost your mind?" Amelia's voice cracked with panic. "You can't just sell the house without talking to us. We live here." Travis stepped forward, his face pale. "Mr. Whitaker, surely we can work this out. If it's about the bedroom situation, maybe we can find another solution." George and Barbara flanked him, both looking genuinely shaken for the first time since they'd arrived. "Chase, this seems awfully drastic," George said. "Can't we discuss this like reasonable adults?" I looked at each of them, my daughter, her boyfriend, his manipulative parents, and felt a calm I hadn't experienced in months. "You want to discuss this, fine. Let's discuss Travis's wife, Jennifer, and his 2 children in Detroit." The color drained completely from Travis's face. Amelia turned to stare at him, confusion replacing panic. "What, Travis? What is he talking about?" "Travis never got divorced." I continued, my voice steady. "He's been lying to you for over a year, Amelia. He's legally married to Jennifer Wilson, and he owes her $45,000 in child support for Tommy and Sarah, his 8- and 6-year-old children who've been living in poverty, while he's been playing house with our family." "That's not true," Travis stammered, but his voice lacked conviction. "Mr. Whitaker, I don't know where you're getting this information, but—" "From court records," I interrupted. "From the private investigator I hired. From the emails between you and your parents, where you all laughed about using Amelia as cover, while you avoided your legal obligations to your real family." Amelia's face went white. "Travis, tell me he's lying. Tell me this isn't true." Before Travis could answer, a car pulled into the driveway. I'd been watching for it, and my timing had been perfect. Frank Morrison got out of the driver's seat, then walked around to help a woman and 2 children out of the passenger side. Jennifer Wilson was younger than I'd expected, probably in her mid-30s, with tired eyes, and the kind of worn appearance that comes from working multiple jobs. The little boy Tommy clung to her hand, while 6-year-old Sarah peered around her mother's legs, both children clearly nervous about being in a strange place. "Travis!" Jennifer's voice was barely a whisper, but it cut through the October air like a knife. "The investigator said you were here, but I didn't believe it until now." Travis's face crumpled. "Jenny, I can explain." "Explain what?" Jennifer's voice grew stronger. "Explain why you've been hiding from your children for 2 years. Explain why Tommy asks me every night when Daddy is coming home. Explain why Sarah drew a picture of our family at school and that teacher asked her why Daddy was missing." Amelia was staring back and forth between Travis and Jennifer, like she was watching a tennis match. "You're married to him?" she asked Jennifer. "For 10 years, Jennifer replied, though apparently he forgot to mention that to you. George cleared his throat nervously. "Now, Jennifer, you know the situation is complicated." "Complicated?" Jennifer whirled on him. "You mean complicated like how you've been helping your son commit bigamy? Like how you've been living in luxury while your grandchildren qualify for free school lunches?" Barbara tried to speak up. We didn't know it would go this far. You knew exactly what you were doing, I said firmly. I have the emails, all of them. The ones where you called me a pushover. The ones where you planned how long you could manipulate my family. The ones where you laughed about Barbara faking health problems to get sympathy. Madison and Jacob had come outside during the commotion, and now they stood frozen on the porch, watching their world explode. Tommy looked up at them with curious eyes, not understanding that these were the children who'd been living with his father while he went without. The house sold this afternoon, I announced to the stunned group. Cash offer closing Friday. You have 4 days to find somewhere else to live. Amelia finally found her voice. Travis, is it true? Are you really married to her? Travis looked at Jennifer, at his children, at Amelia, and finally at the ground. Yes, he whispered. That single word shattered whatever was left of my daughter's trust. And I watched 20 years of my parenting crystallize in her face as she realized what kind of man she'd chosen to defend over her own father. The aftermath of that confrontation was swift and decisive. Travis packed his belongings that same evening, his hands shaking as he threw clothes into garbage bags. Jennifer took the children back to Detroit immediately, but not before I handed her a check for $50,000 from my house sale proceeds. Use this to get justice for your family, I told her. Get a good lawyer, get what he owes you, and give those kids the life they deserve. George and Barbara were gone within 48 hours, moving into a cheap motel while they scrambled to find assisted living they could afford. Amelia helped them pack her face a mask of shame and disappointment. Oh, Dad, I don't know what to say, she told me as the movers loaded my belongings into a truck. I failed you. I failed Mom's memory. I chose the wrong people. You did? I replied simply. But you're learning. That's what matters now. The house sold exactly as planned. Cash deal closed Friday. By Sunday, I was sitting in my new 2-bedroom apartment overlooking Lake Erie, drinking coffee from Helen's mug and reading The Plain Dealer in perfect silence. 6 months later, this is my life. I wake up every morning at 6 sharp and smile before my feet hit the floor. My morning routine is mine again. Coffee, newspaper, sunrise over the water. No one controls my thermostat. No one tells me when I can shower. No one makes me feel like a guest in my own home. The apartment is smaller than the house, but it's perfect. When I go to sleep in my master bedroom with its lake view, I know with absolute certainty that no one can kick me out of it. Jacob and Madison visit every weekend. Grandpa, Madison said during her first visit, we're so sorry we didn't understand. We thought you were being mean. You were being manipulated by experts, sweetheart. The important thing is you learned about standing up for what's right. Amelia calls weekly trying to rebuild what she broke. Dad, I was so wrong. I chose strangers over my own father. I don't hate you, Amelia, but I can't trust you like before. Trust takes years to rebuild if it can be rebuilt at all. The updates on everyone else satisfy me completely. Jennifer and her children are thriving. She hired a good lawyer who garnished Travis's wages and forced him to pay every penny he owed. Tommy and Sarah are in better schools now, and Jennifer sends me pictures at Christmas. Travis works construction lives in a small apartment, pays $800 monthly in child support plus back payments. He's not allowed unsupervised visits until he completes court-ordered counseling. George and Barbara are in assisted living, burning through savings at $4,000 monthly. They have few visitors because they destroyed relationships with everyone who might have cared. Consequences eventually come due. I've made friends at the VFW post, men who understand honor and respect. My neighbors treat me with courtesy I'd forgotten I deserved. I volunteer at Legal Aid, helping other seniors being taken advantage of by family. People ask if I regret my decision if I miss the big house. The answer is always the same. I regret that it took me so long to act. Here's what I learned. Sometimes the only way to get respect is to demand it. If someone can kick you out of your own bedroom, they don't respect you. If someone can change your house rules without consulting you, they don't respect you. If someone chooses strangers over you in your own home, they don't respect you. Family is important, but self-respect is essential. Without self-respect, you have nothing. With it, you have everything you need. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had to choose between family peace and personal dignity? What did you choose? And how did it work out? Sometimes the hardest lesson is that being alone with dignity intact is better than being surrounded by people who don't value us. Remember, it's never too late to stand up for yourself. Looking back on this journey, I've learned that God gives us the strength to stand up for ourselves when we need it most. The lesson from my true story isn't about revenge, It's about recognizing your worth and refusing to let anyone diminish it, even family. I spent 70 years believing that being a good father meant saying yes to everything, sacrificing endlessly, and putting everyone else's comfort before my own dignity. But God has a way of showing us when enough is enough. Sometimes the people we love most will test our boundaries until we're forced to choose between peace and self-respect. In all the betrayal stories I've heard since sharing mine, there's a common thread: good people being taken advantage of by those who should protect them. My true story taught me that enabling bad behavior isn't love, it's weakness disguised as kindness. The hardest truth I learned is that some relationships can only be saved by ending them temporarily or sometimes permanently. When someone shows you who they really are through their actions, believe them. When they choose to manipulate rather than communicate, when they prioritize strangers over family, when they mistake your kindness for stupidity, that's when God is telling you to walk away. Amelia learned too late that betrayal stories always end the same way: the betrayer loses more than they ever gained. Travis discovered that running from responsibility only makes the consequences more severe. George and Barbara found out that manipulation eventually backfires on the manipulator. My true story isn't unique, but my response was. I chose dignity over dysfunction, self-respect over family drama, and peace over chaos. At 76 now, I sleep better than I have in years because I know that no one can take away what I've built for myself. The greatest gift you can give yourself is the courage to say no to people who don't respect your yes. If this true story resonated with you, if you've faced similar betrayal stories in your own family, I want to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had to choose between keeping peace and keeping your dignity? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more real-life stories that matter, and share this video with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to stand up for yourself. Your story matters too.